From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Now, coming up on the Primetime News Bulletin here on Joy News, President Mahama revives existing plan to supply water to Togo on his recent two-day trip, which also took him to Benin. Meanwhile, cocoa farmers have been assured they will continue to earn more for their produce, despite fluctuations in the price of the commodity on the world market. Seoul Commission on Judgment Debts vows to probe inability of relevant state agencies to account for mysterious sale of GNPC vessel for $22 million in 2000. Renowned heart surgeon Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng warns poor ventilation in many homes is to blame for the rise in heart diseases amongst Ghanaians. In business, inflation for August dips for the first time in several months. There's also sports, showbiz, and international news all coming up. Stay tuned. In our very first story, the Seoul Commission on Judgment Debts has vowed to unravel the mysterious sale of a vessel belonging to the GNPC. Though a Ministry of Energy letter indicates the vessel was sold for $22 million in the year 2000, both the Ghana National Petroleum Company and the Bank of Ghana have denied knowledge of the transaction. GNPC CEO Nana Boakye Safoje told the Commission they have no records of such a transaction.
According to available records, the drill ship Discoverer 511 was sold in 2000 for $22 million, of which $19.5 million was paid to Societe Generale. The Commission, however, says other unverifiable accounts suggest the vessel may have been sold for as much as $47 million. But the GNPC boss says they only knew of the sale through a letter from the Ministry of Energy.
It was not sold by GNPC, but we received that letter that we submitted from the Ministry of Energy.
That it has been sold?
That it had been sold, yes.
But meanwhile, it was the property of GNPC?
Yes.
And your property was sold without your knowledge?
Well, to be frank, it's difficult for me to comment on that because at that time of the sale, I wasn't.
You were not.
I was not in
the CEO.
I was not the CEO.
The Bank of Ghana similarly denied knowledge of the transaction, insisting their checks drew blanks.
My Lord, we have queried our database extensively, and there's nothing that shows that some payments were made to Societe Generale in respect of the sale of the GNPC ship. I'm believing that they might have done the transaction without involving the central bank. That's what I believe. Because otherwise we would have had some data on that transaction.
The Commission says it remains a mystery how the vessel could have been sold without the knowledge of the owner.
The ship was actually sold by the Ministry of Energy because we have cited a document that relates to the sale of the ship. It is a little bit surprising how a property belonging to GNPC could have been sold without they knowing anything about it. But we are still probing into this matter.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service, represented by Legal Officer Anthony Kokroko, also appeared before the Commission to provide information and documents on a motor accident in which one Sergeant Francis Addo crashed and destroyed 4 vehicles on the Kanda Highway in 2005. Though judgment debt was awarded to the vehicle owners, the Attorney General's department says it has no record of the payment being made.
President Mahama's two-day visit to Benin through Togo saw further talks and arrangements to see Ghana supply potable water to Togo and more electricity to the two countries. Minister of Information and Media Relations Mahama Yariga, who returned with the president from the trip last night, has been briefing the press corps at the Flagstaff House. He said President Mahama also discussed with his Beninois counterpart how his country could learn from Ghana's health insurance scheme.
President John Dramani Mahama has been described by the Minister of Information and Media Relations, Mahama Yariga, as one that should deepen the existing relationship between the countries. It should also promote peace and security. But what were the details of their discussion?
Ghana will, under the pact, which is currently in the works, supply potable water to Togo from Sogakope in the Volta region. The African Development Bank is expected to provide the financial backing for the project.
The idea is that we have great potential to develop some of the water sources in Sogakope and then pipe it into Togo to serve the people of Togo and also people in the Volta region. The two countries committed themselves to work with colleagues in the sub-region to ensure the realization of the Lagos-Abidjan highway. The thinking is that it should be constructed in such a way that you don't have to pass 3 borders before you get to Ghana.
A mini hydroelectric dam to be built at Juale in the northern region will also supply between 80 and 100 megawatts of electricity to Togo. In Benin, Mahama Yariga said the two leaders discussed energy and health. The country wants in excess of the 40 megawatts of electricity it currently receives.
Benin has a major challenge with the supply of energy. They have traditionally also depended on Ghana for the supply of energy from Akosombo. But with our crisis, it's also affecting them. They discuss also the issue of gas supply and how Ghana can help them with gas, because presently they are also trying to get gas from Nigeria. They have some challenges. Historically, we have sustained a beneficial relationship between us and them. We have been able for several decades now to actually supply them with electricity. And what they are asking for is to work with us to develop the potentials that we have. For instance, we have several sites where we can develop hydro generation. And the idea is that we have those potentials they don't have. So if they can work with us for us to develop our infrastructure, and then they can buy the energy from us. I mean, the energy that we give them is not free. We do sell the energy to them, so it's income that comes to our economy.
President Mahama and his counterpart are said to have agreed to call an ECOWAS summit on energy plans for the region, specifically the exploration of thermal and nuclear energy. Forestry protection and road infrastructure to accelerate regional integration were also discussed. In response to a request for technical advice to replicate Ghana's health insurance scheme, President Mahama is said to have cautioned his counterpart on the inherent challenges.
Benin seems to be looking up to Ghana in many areas: health, energy, and even port infrastructure. Does Ghana have the capacity to take on this big brother role in the region? Information and Media Relations Minister says such collaborations are mutually beneficial. Gifty Andopia, Joy News, Flagstaff House.
The Minority Caucus in Parliament has condemned recent comments by lead counsel for the NDC in the just-ended election petition directed at one of the justices of the Supreme Court. According to the caucus, Chachu Chikata deliberately misrepresented the facts in his comments in order to ground a charge of bias against Justice Eninyeboah. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin reports.
By 5-4 majority, the Supreme Court dismissed 3 of the 6 claims of the NPP petition, whilst the others were dismissed by a unanimous decision. 3 days after the verdict, one of the counsels for the 3 respondents, Chachu Chikata, described Justice Eninyeboah as, quote, biased against NDC and persistently and consistently voted against NDC on all issues. According to the Minority Caucus in Parliament, the court's records show that Justice Enin Yeboah did not persistently and consistently vote against the respondents on all interim applications that the court ruled upon in the course of the trial. At a press conference in Kumasi, members of the Minority Caucus said the link of former President Kufuor and Justice Enin Yeboah by Chachuchi Kata is more curious, adding that the appointment of the justices to the Supreme Court, other than the Chief Justice, is made by the President on the recommendation of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with prior approval of Parliament. They said a comment by Chachuchi Kata was an attack on the judge's integrity because the facts do not support the charge.
The comment by Mr. Chikata, however, was not disagreeing or even criticizing Justice Yeboah's reasoning in his judgment. That would have been a normal exercise in legal brainstorming. Rather, he attacked the justice's integrity by labeling him as biased when the facts do not support the charge. That is rather irresponsible, reckless, cowardly, and a clear manifestation of low standards in professional ethics. An attack on members of the bench is an attack on the fundamental principle of the rule of law and access to justice.
Joseph Oseusu said it is necessary for Ghanaians to protect the Supreme Court's judges at all times, even when they hand down decisions that don't please them. They also called on Chachuchi Kata to devote more time to publishing legal intellectual work to entrench the rule of law in the country. Member of Parliament for Finso South, Bin Abdallah Banda, said Chachu should be summoned before the Supreme Court for making contemptuous comments.
Chachuchi Kata, being a lawyer of his standard, should not have singled out one justice of the 9 justices and made such disparaging remarks about him. We are expecting the Supreme Court to summon Chachuchi Kata before it and punish him according to the law, as they did to the others.
The group calling itself the Concerned Party Activists of the New Patriotic Party in Cape Coast says Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is still the right man for the party, together with his running mate Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who they claim has won the admiration of people from within and outside the party.
The group emphasized that Nana Addo's ideas are still relevant to the party and the country in general. They mentioned policies such as good governance, quality health care, and his policy on free SHS, stressing that Ghanaians will never forgive the party if it allows these policies to be illusions. They further stated a Nana Addo Dr. Bawumia ticket to a very large extent will achieve a lot, since it has already been marketed and will make the 2016 campaign easier. The spokesperson of the group, Papa Damche Amwa, said the party will not allow their opponents to elect a candidate and set the agenda for the NPP, and that those who are using age as a barrier and asking Nana Addo to retire will never win.
Now that it has become so clear that the issue of overvoting, no verification, no vote, as well as no signature of presiding officers are no longer relevant, I call on all party supporters to make it a point that December 7, 2016 will be decided at the polling station. We must all prepare, since our destiny will be in our own hands. We will certainly need someone who could inspire us, and this will be no other person than Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
He cited many African leaders who are over 70 years and are still fit, ruling their countries, including Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia. The group, however, hoped the party hierarchy would endeavor to consider the many calls from across the country and retain Nana Addo for the 2016 flag bearership slot of the NPP.
Now, in a related development, we're joined on the line now by the first National Vice Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Fred Owari, on supposed arrest of some 2 persons within the NPP over some death threats against another member of the party. Good evening to you, Mr. Owari.
Good evening.
Now, we're told about these arrests. Can you confirm for us which people have been arrested? Who are these 2 who have been arrested?
Later this afternoon, around 4 o'clock, I was informed that some members of the party had been invited by the CID branch of the police to assist them in investigating a complaint lodged by a party member, Ray Sunbed Threat. So I went over there about 5 p.m. I got there and managed to secure bail for them. The police have instructed that we get back there tomorrow at 10 o'clock to enable them continue with investigations into the matter.
Who are these two, and why are they being held?
They're not being held at this point in time. I think we've been granted bail for them to go home. But I cannot disclose the name at this point in time. I'm sure tomorrow we'll bring finality to this matter, and then at that point we should be comfortable with the releasing of the names.
When you say finality, what exactly do you mean? Do you think you're going to wrap up the case?
I believe that we'll get to the explanation of it. I mean, the police should be able to find some, either the merit or they come to some conclusions one way or the other tomorrow. I'm certain about that.
All right, thank you very much. You heard Fred Owari. He's the first national vice chairman of the New Patriotic Party, and he joined us on the line to explain or give us some more clarification and detail about the arrest of 2 members of the party over alleged death threats against the Greater Accra Communications Director of the party. In other news, more children in Ghana are likely to be afflicted with heart diseases if housing issues in the country are not addressed. Former director of the National Cardiothoracic Center, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, explains the current increase in cardiovascular diseases is largely due to poor ventilation in many homes. He was speaking at the launch of the World Heart Day, which will be commemorated on the 29th of September this year.
Poor housing, he explains, can trigger a wide range of health conditions, including respiratory infections, which also lead to the development of heart diseases.
No, we have a peculiar heart disease in developing countries called rheumatic heart disease. And that is a result of poverty. I mean, overcrowding with spread of infection. And usually it's a sore throat, a type of sore throat. You know how fast it can spread. Or skin infection. Now, if housing is good, we don't live, there are not too many people sleeping in one room, the housing units are not overcrowded, then we don't have an increased incidence of this rheumatic heart disease. So what I'm saying is that as we create more wealth, we should design better housing for our people.
This year's World Heart Day will highlight the prevention and control of cardiovascular diseases with an emphasis on women and children. Heart diseases is said to be the #1 killer of women, causing 1 in 3 female deaths. Children are also said to be vulnerable as the risk of cardiovascular diseases can begin before birth, during fetal development, and exposure to smoking, unhealthy diets and lack of exercise.
You know, the women will not have that dramatic chest pain. It is very subtle, maybe pain in the shoulder, a little bit discomfort behind the breastbone, and pain sometimes going into the ear or the left arm. Very subtle. So these are the things that we have to highlight, that if you have such pains, then take it seriously and report to the hospital.
Why we want to focus on children also is that we find out that a lot of the risk factors that lead to heart disease actually started from childhood. We want the interventions to start from childhood, from the time the child is born.
This year's theme for celebrating Heart Day is Take the Road to a Healthy Heart. Healthy eating and lifestyle is advice.
We are addicted to salt and sugar. People like Precontre because of the salt. You know, if you give somebody Precontre and they all drive pig feet without salt, they don't like it. Why? Because we are addicted to salt. So let's reduce our salt intake. And then the sugary drinks.
The World Health Organization is hoping to reduce cardiovascular diseases by 25% by the year 2025.
Staying with health, government has released 368,116 Ghana cedis for the vaccination of some 312,000 children in the Upper West region. This was disclosed by Deputy Upper West Regional Director of the Ghana Health Services in charge of public health, Dr. Kofi Issa, at the launch of the Measles Rubella campaign at Ponyentanga in the Wa West District. Rafiq Salam's report from Ponyentanga.
The regional launch of the measles campaign in Wa West District brought together chiefs in the area, health workers and children who are the beneficiaries of the program. As part of the campaign to create awareness of the program, some children walked through the program grounds with placards trumpeting the advantages of the vaccination exercise. The Deputy Upper West Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service in charge of public health, Dr. Kofi Issa, stated since Ghana signed on to the Millennium Development Goals, she has made lots of improvement in achieving the targets set, but more needs to be done to hit the 2015 target. He advised health personnel involved in the exercise to be professional in their work and ensure that all children are covered. The exercise is ongoing for children who are 9 months up to 14 years. Rafiq Salam's report from Ponyentanga in the Upper West region.
President John Mahama has assured cocoa farmers they will continue to earn more from the crop despite the fluctuations in the price of the commodity on the world market. Speaking at a Cocoa Stakeholders Forum on the way forward for the industry, the president also charged Cocoa Board to target other markets besides Europe.
The cocoa subsector has been the backbone of the Ghanaian economy, providing a lot of jobs for many Ghanaians. It also contributes significantly to the country's foreign exchange earnings as well as tax revenue. The president therefore said the gesture is therefore in appreciation of the farmers.
That when cocoa farmers' welfare is adequately taken care of, all other stakeholders in the cocoa sector will also receive their just rewards. It is in this vein that the producer price was increased by 108%, has been increased by 108% from Ghana cedi 1,632 per ton in 2008-2009 to 3,200 Ghana cedis per ton in 2010-2011 crop year, and then to the current 3,392 Ghana cedis per ton in the 2012-2013 crop year. It is also worth noting that this feat has been achieved at a time when cocoa prices have continued to take a nosedive on the international commodity markets. As the international market price of the produce continues to fall, we are expected to take the necessary remedial measures to ensure that our farmers remain in business.
The president said the discovery of more markets beyond Europe will ensure Ghana's produce will continue to be in high demand.
I therefore challenge Ghana Cocoa Board and other stakeholders to tackle the over-concentration on the European market for our output. Recent challenges faced by economies of Europe should serve as a wake-up call for us to explore other emerging markets, and this forum should consider the way forward in diversifying our export destinations.
The Minister of Finance, Seth Terkper, also acknowledged the contribution of the cocoa farmers to national development.
The 2012-13 cocoa season and also Cocoa Board injecting $1.3 billion into the Ghanaian economy. The 2013-14 crop season is expecting cocoa to inject another $1.2 billion into the Ghanaian economy.
The president again suggested such fora should be held more frequently with all stakeholders involved to develop the cocoa industry.
Ghanaian entrepreneurs ready to venture into green, solar and renewable energy will benefit from a $15 million grant from the Danish government. With support from the World Bank, the Danish government is seeking to establish a climate innovation center as part of a long-term strategy to reduce the impact of climate change in Ghana.
Already, some African countries, including Kenya and Ethiopia, have benefited from the establishment of a climate innovation center. Through the center, climate change-related businesses such as green buildings, solar and wind energy, waste and water management systems would be created and supported.
If the center is made operational, it would be essentially a business incubator where young entrepreneurs, more mature businesses can come and learn from experts. They can network with each other. They can find investors. They can undergo some technical training. They can have a little bit of office space if they need it. And so all these services, and even financing is always a big one that everyone's interested in. So all these services would be provided to the entrepreneurs who come to the center.
Officials are hoping to set up the center before the end of this year.
So the challenge is actually not to get the entrepreneurs. There's many entrepreneurs who are interested in this type of support. The challenge is to narrow down which ones are selected, because many people have good ideas, but only some of them are really viable businesses. So the CIC's goal and job would be to find those that are more than ideas, they're actually good business, and they can grow those businesses into more sustainable, scalable businesses that create jobs, create wealth, and create environmental protection.
Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Neelanthi van der Poy said government, in collaboration with its development partners, has set up a Center of Excellence for Global Environmental Change Research at the University of Ghana. This will focus on training and building capacity in climate change adaptation research.
As a country which is looking for alternative sources of energy to fuel our industrialization process, and the fact that our skills base for science, technology and innovation is relatively limited and weak due to the lack of effective interactions between key agents such as universities, research and technology transfer institutions, and industry on the concept of GCIC. At this crucial time, it is in the right direction, and what we are doing today should spur us on in order to create that interaction, that gap, so that industry will know what sort of science innovations are going on in the research institutions. Then we should also tailor our research to our industrial needs.
He tasked SMEs to take advantage of business opportunities in the renewable energy sector.
A recently constructed resource center for the people of Wechau in the Upper West region is said to be deteriorating even before it is put to use. The lack of electricity to power the machines has meant that most of them are decaying. Joy News' Jafu Sojenfi visited the center meant to equip residents with a vocation.
The resource center was built a year ago by the United Nations Development Programme to serve Wechau and other surrounding communities in the Upper West region. It is equipped with bread, soap and shea butter making machines, vocations meant to provide livelihoods for women, especially in the catchment area. Without electricity, however, the abandoned facility is beginning to experience cracks in its walls.
In spite of efforts put in by the UNDP to get the center ready, these machines have been lying idle for the past 1 year because the district assembly has not been able to connect the center to electricity.
The women, as a result, are forced to look elsewhere. Many of the women are contemplating exploring other vocations, at least until the electricity problem is resolved. The district chief executive of Wa West, Dasana Adamu, tried to explain why the building had not been connected to the national grid for almost a year now.
Basically, the problem was with the forms. And basically, number one, because I had left the issue with coordinator to liaise with the engineer. I had connected the two of them to handle that matter. So I cannot, as the DC, be running after very looking for forms. Even the contractor who did the work, who did the electricity or electrical wiring in the resource center, we don't know.
He, however, could not give a definite timeline as to when the center will be connected. The women are meanwhile pleading for immediate resolution of their problem, so at least they are not forced to troop to the urban centers to join their relations in search for greener pastures.
Hello, good evening. My name is Abigail Admakoentri here to bring you the latest in business. Now, first off, inflation declined marginally in August to 11.5%, the first such drop in several months. It is down from the 11.8% recorded in the previous month.
The August inflation rate marks the first decline after a consistent rise since the expiry of the single-digits era. The non-food group saw a decline in inflation from 15.4% in July to 14.2% in August. Acting Deputy Government Statistician, however, explains a decline in some food subsectors also contributed.
For example, we have food products not elsewhere classified, which reported a rate of about 2.1%. We have milk, cheese, and eggs, a rate of 4.1%. We have mineral waters, soft drinks, fruit juices, which all had lower rates of inflation. And this actually impacted on what we saw for the food category. When we go to the non-food, again, we have the communications group, subgroup, still having a low inflation of 1.5%, and this in fact impacted on the inflation that we observed. We have hotels, cafes, we have alcoholic beverages, we have health, we have recreation and culture down, which all had inflation rates below that for the non-food group. And these actually have effects on drawing down the average for the category. So this is what we can tell you for the factors that have drawn down the inflation.
At the regional level, inflation ranged from 3.4% recorded in the Upper East region to 15.1% in the Western region.
And these were housing, water, electricity, gas, and other utilities group, which recorded a rate of 34.0%. Then the hotels, cafes, and restaurants, 23.6%, transport, 19.2%, health, 18.6%, furnishings and household equipment, 17.7%.
Three regions, Western, Ashanti, and Eastern region, recorded an inflation rate above the national average of 11.5%.
Well, away from that, to the mining sector, civil society groups have condemned the use of violence on unarmed residents of mining communities in what has been described as illegitimate public hearings by the Environmental Protection Agency, particularly in the Bundai, Nakaba, and Pristia communities. The communities recently protested against one of such hearings. The civil society groups are therefore calling on all mining regulatory bodies to ensure the rights of residents of mining communities are protected when regularizing the operations of mining companies.
According to civil society groups such as the Third World Network, WACAM, Livelihood and Environment Ghana, and Center for Environmental Impact Analysis, among others, the brutalities previously meted on residents of mining communities for objecting to the operations of some mining companies have resurfaced. On Tuesday, September 3, 2013, more than 50 residents of Bundai and Nakaba were allegedly brutalized, with 6 of them arrested by the police for boycotting a public hearing by the EPA. The hearing was on the new operations of Golden Star Resources Limited, a mining company alleged to have failed to implement its mitigation plans regarding the Plant North Pit operations in Pristia. Residents claim the Plant North Pit operations of the company subjected them to several environmental hazards, and hence the protest against the expansion of its operations.
In Pristia alone, they destroyed 4 spring waters, and we were promised that after their first operation, they will bring back the water for the community use. They completed the work in 2005. As I'm talking to you now, the water is still at where they cover it. And where they are going now, Bondi, they depend on 3 streams. The company has destroyed it from the day that they came there. The community has been bombarding the company to at least find alternative water for them. They never did.
For civil society groups, regulatory bodies have the duty to implement effectively the free, prior and informed consent in the ECOWAS directive on mining approved by government, which requires mining companies to seek the consent of communities on projects devoid of intimidation.
If the EPA
are not doing what they are supposed to do, I think the Minerals Commission too can come in, because some of these brutalities that is going on, there are several petitions that have been sent to them, and they have to also intervene and tell the companies that, look, if you continue to do this, then we have the right to terminate your certificate, or we have the right to not issue any licenses for you, because every 2 years these companies renew their licenses with EPA, they renew their licenses with the Minerals Commission.
There are institutions and people who are supposed to be protecting us. Now, when some of these people or institutions align themselves with mining companies, they are unable to do their work as expected. Example has been given of the security agencies in Western Region and their affiliation with Golden Star Resources. Our view is that the securities must be brought to book.
The CSOs are also asking the EPA to organize public hearings in communities to be directly affected by mining projects in accordance with the law, while calling on the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, to investigate the circumstances that led to the alleged assault on residents of the 3 mining communities. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, Ben Ai, says his outfit will not support the brutalization of residents in mining communities. The Commission, however, insists the EPA's public hearing on Golden Star Resources concession at Mbiasi Nsuta is legitimate, as chiefs of the community consented to it in writing. He says the Commission will investigate the alleged assaults and dialogue with both parties to resolve their differences, but cannot terminate the license already given to Golden Star Resource Limited, as proposed by some civil society groups.
Government agency, I believe, will go out there to support brutalities meted out against any community at all. This is not a private meeting, it's a public hearing. So, assuming that you expected the company to hold a hearing, actually it's not the company, EPA, to hold a hearing in a particular location, and they decided to hold it anywhere else. It was still within the general Prestia area, and I think anybody could have gone there to express their views. But now, clearly, from the letter that the chiefs wrote, it indicated that there appears to be some support for going forward. Obviously, not everybody in the community appears to be supportive of that. So I think they could have gone to the hearing and said, we disagree with what these people are planning to do for this and that reason. Because the EPA is to find out if there are concerns. Have they been addressed? If they are not addressed, they will not go forward with it. What will happen is we'll invite the 2 parties to sit and drill down to what exactly are the issues. Sometimes there's a lot said on public platform, but there may be issues which are not really what are said. So in that framework, the mine and whoever is protesting will sit and then find out what exactly are the issues.
Well, my name is Abigail Adumakwentri, and it's been a pleasure bringing you the latest in business.
Sports is brought to you in association with.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports. Former Black Stars captain Joe Addo has called on football pundits to exercise restraint in critiquing the Black Stars after they lost 3-1 to Japan in an international friendly at the Yokohama International Stadium yesterday. The result has angered a number of football pundits and fanatics who have questioned the quality of players fielded by head coach Kwesi Appiah. But Joe Addo tells Joy Sports the exercise was worthwhile.
For us, beating Japan in Japan was a very tall order. We did that in the first half. We did well, by going up 1-0. But, the odds were against us, obviously. Playing away after traveling immediately after the game. They didn't have time to celebrate. They traveled all the way across the world to the Far East to go and play this game. I mean, we have to give these players a lot of credit because they deserve it. They didn't come out with the results that some of us wanted. But I think it was a good exercise for Coach Kwesi Appiah to see the players that he will, want to be in the squad.
More on football in Cameroon. Former Cameroon striker Patrick Mboma says Samuel Eto'o will make U-turn to the national team after the new Chelsea signing told his team last weekend he was no longer interested in playing for the indomitable Lions. Eto'o, who was substituted during last weekend's World Cup qualifier against Libya, is reported to have informed his colleagues about his desire to quit. But Patrick Mboma believes the four-time African Footballer of the Year will change his mind to help his country qualify for the 2014 World Cup. Boxing now, and Mayweather Jr. says his track record will prove pivotal in Saturday's light middleweight unification fight against Saul Alvarez in Las Vegas. Mayweather has won all 44 of his fights, while Mexican Alvarez has 42 wins and a draw from 43 contests.
Five-division world champion Floyd Mayweather and Mexican star Saul Canelo Alvarez have arrived in Las Vegas. The two square up the MGM Grand in the early hours of Sunday morning in what has been titled the biggest fight of the decade. Alvarez is a 154-pound champion, and Mayweather usually fights at 147 pounds. So for the undisputed pound-for-pound king, it is a step up in weight class. Their Super Welterweight Championship 12-round fight will be contested at 152 pounds, with the Mexican's welterweight title and Floyd's light middleweight title on the line. The 23-year-old Alvarez, who is fresh off a unanimous victory over Austin Trout in April, believes he can register one of the biggest upsets in boxing history.
Right, on that pugilistic note, we end sports tonight. My name is George Addy Jr. Do you have a good night? Israel will join us with Showbiz.
Sports was brought to you in
Now, people may be making a living off it and are actually being very successful at it, but is it that simple? Many people perceive modeling as just taking strides, but after receiving training from seasoned models for 2 weeks, some young, aspiring models possibly may have had a change of mind.
The young aspiring models, both male and females, were taken through a fortnight of grooming session to prepare them into professional models. Dubbed catwalk icons, the future models took turns to showcase what they have been taken through by some seasoned models. According to Marlon, the organizer of Catwalk Icons, the young aspirants have been given all they need as models to roll out, including blah blah blah.
We actually bring in seasoned model instructors who come on board to teach them the various types of modeling and all that. This year we had Martha Nkuma, Prince David Osei, James Gardner, and then John Jomello. They came to the house to interact with the models so that they will know that it's not only about modeling that they can also pursue, but they can also delve into other entrepreneurial skills and blah 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 without necessarily focusing on modeling as their main career.
The night also saw performances from some underground artists who did their best to impress their audience. There was also a competition to select who the best catwalk icon was. And Precious Atakpa was crowned Catwalk Icons 2013. The only male contestant among the ladies was adjudged most fashionable model.
Now, the residents of Cape Coast find themselves in our Showbiz News today for their ingenuity in transforming fuel filling stations into entertainment centers. Apparently, the phenomenon came to a head at the just-ended Fito Fashion, where many revelers enjoy themselves oblivious to the danger they were exposed to. Richard Kojunyako has more.
Cape Coast was the place to be during the just-ended Okwa Afashe. People from all walks of life were in the old town to take part in the annual festival. There were lots of activities, and restaurants and other food joints were filled, including the filling stations that have over the period been adopted. Both the young and the old, educated and the uneducated are all found busily boogieing or having some sort of fun at these joints that are primarily supposed to be used to dispense fuel to the general public. Gas filling stations had equally been taken over, with the flaming butts of cigarettes being flaunted with careless abandon, the perfect recipe for disaster should there be an ignition. Interestingly, some residents have also observed the worrying trend, though nothing has been done about it yet.
We should prepare for the unexpected because one day, someday soon, there's going to be a massive explosion where lives and various property running into millions of cities will be lost. Even when we drive to go and have our vehicle filled with fuel, we are asked to turn off our engine and do not smoke and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, these places have nowadays been turned to party grounds where people party. You see people smoking cigarette, marijuana, other danger and the peril of, all those patrons.
So many activities go on. There are security implications, there are health implications. For example, in Cape Coast, there's even a filling station where we have a laboratory station at the same place. People smoke, people make calls. There are shopping malls in such places.
That's it for the bulletin. Before we go, a quick run through our top stories. President Mahama has revived an existing plan to supply water to Togo on his recent 2-day trip.